I don't remember when was the last time I had this thick fog. Wow. It's a complete luxury problem, but there's just compositions everywhere. So it's really hard to find that one really good composition and not getting distracted by all the smaller ones. So I'm currently working this scene where I have this fallen tree over this little gorge, and then I'm shooting more or less straight up into the air. I'm generally not doing that on foggy days because the sky is just going to be like milky white, but I do think that how the other trees get together and then there's this hole up here actually works really well with this fallen over branch. My biggest issue with this composition is actually the lower part here where there's also a fallen tree. I'm a little bit in doubt about whether or not it takes up too much attention in this gorge, but nevertheless I am going to take the photo. I've had to go ultra wide angle. I'm all the way out at 14mm with my 14mm lens, f8, and then ISO 100, and then gives me a shutter speed of about 1/10 of a second.
I promise I'll get to talk about the gear in just a moment, but I thought there is a great learning sequence right here because, as I mentioned, I was a bit skeptical about this photo on location. The fallen over tree on the slope in combination with the fallen over tree in the middle creates two strong leading lines, leading your eyes straight to the edge where they meet up, and that's such a strong point of tension it just distracts from the rest of the photo. And just to show you exactly what I mean, I used AI to remove the fallen over tree, and you can see just how big of an impact it has on the composition. Yes, we can argue our eyes is still led over to the right, but instead of getting distracted by the tree on the slope, we are led up into the canopy instead. It's compositional awareness like this and how to use the different compositional tools I teach in my ebooks on composition. I cover topics like visual flow, depth, scale, negative space, focal length, perspective compression, where to place your subjects, whether to photograph in vertical or horizontal format, and much, much more. With minimal text and tons of examples, they're super easy to read. I've added extended EXIF data to all the photos so you can see exactly how I took the photos. You can get the free light versions by signing up to my newsletter, and you can get the full versions either standalone or bundled up with my ebook about light and landscape photography for a small discount. There are links to everything down in the description of the video.
So what a beautiful morning it is. I honestly haven't really slept that well. I usually don't really sleep that well when it's predicted fog in the morning, because I'm always overthinking where to go, what to photograph, if it's even going to be foggy. But it's just so important to get out. Because let's be honest, as a photographer, if you own a camera and you don't get out and use it, then it's just a very expensive paperweight. So whether it is going to be foggy or not, it is always good to get out. If it's not going to be foggy, you're probably going to have a beautiful sunrise. So, it's a win-win situation. So ISO 100, f11, half a second of a shutter speed, and I have this beautiful mound here with the trees sticking up. I think that works really well. Beautiful little composition where the trail leads you in and up onto the little hill here. But point being is that the one thing that all photographers eventually need to realize is that the camera is just a tool. If you don't get out and use it, then what's the point of it? So you need to get out. The entire purpose of the camera is to take photos. And then we can talk enough about specs, lenses, and how to get good image quality. But as I've said repeatedly on this channel, there's nothing worse than a sharp photo of a fuzzy concept. I think it was Ansel Adams who coined that. It wasn't me who came up with that. But the camera is not the one that gets you up at 3 in the morning. The camera is not the one that goes and scouts areas so you know where to go in the morning. The cameras are not the ones with the understanding of light and composition. That's you. Your camera is just a tool. You've probably also been asked once or twice, what camera did you use to get a specific photo? It is a little bit like asking a chef about what pans he's using to create the food. The camera brand is less of importance. It is more important about how you use the camera. So I just came by this scene right here. There was a lot of elements that I actually really like in it. So we have this fallen tree with the moss on. We have another tree with some mushrooms on. And then we have these two, I think it's beech trees with a lot of moss on too. So there's a lot of like really beautiful greens in this scene, along with some pretty cool trees, like those here in the background. They're like 2 twin trees, and that actually looks really cool. So what I wanted to do was see if I could like bring in this fallen over tree trunk here as some kind of foreground. I think that could actually work out really well. So if I go down and just bring it in like this, and I put the wide angle on the 16 to 35. See if I just need to zoom in a bit. I'm going to zoom out and then I can always crop it afterwards. I have 61 megapixels to work with, so I think that should be sufficient. And this one here, sadly, it's one of those I have to focus stack if I want to have everything in focus. Preferably I don't want to focus stack my photos because it's just such a hassle putting them together, especially in forest environments like these. But I do think it may be worth it for this one, because it is actually a really cool little scene here.
It's actually the first time I visited this forest in these conditions, and one thing that very fast became clear is just how messy it is. If you look at the background, there are so many young trees, and just like how fallen twigs stick out of snow and make for messy forest floors, the fog in this forest actually makes all these thin and young trees much more visible, because the fog creates that separation throughout the scene. The photo still works, but it's definitely not among my favorite forest photos.
I remember a few years back, a winter, where Nigel Danson and Rick Bebbington, a couple of my good friends and colleagues here on YouTube, they were out photographing in the Peak District, and they were hit by rain on a frosty day. So all that rain got stuck to the camera and froze, and there was like a layer of ice on the camera equipment. And Nigel just made like this reel about it on Instagram, put it up, and of course a lot of people were like, oh, that's cool, whatever. But there was also a lot of people who like lost their absolute shit over it, and were telling Nigel that he wasn't like respecting his gear, or that he was ruining his gear, and he was a bad influence on Instagram and for other photographers. And I was like, what the hell? Sorry for swearing here. It was so weird. Just remember, especially when we work as professionals, we know very well that a camera is just a tool. And sometimes you do put it through some more or less extreme weather conditions, whether it's a sandstorm in Death Valley, if it's Arctic conditions with minus 30 degrees, whether it's a snowstorm, whether it's in rain. Sometimes it gets covered by ice. But many of these professional cameras, they are made to last. They are made to be able to handle those conditions. Like, don't baby your gear. Don't stay home because you think your camera can't handle it. Take your precautions, of course, but again, it is just a tool to get the photo, and it is in the extreme conditions that you get the extremely awesome landscape photos, for the most part. Oh dear. This is going to be one of those videos where I theoretically could make enough content for, like, I don't know, 3 videos. I don't like using the word content. I could make 3 videos this morning. But you know what? I think I'll just stick to one. This is a really cool little composition here. So obviously I'm using this branch here and the trail is just underneath it. Just capturing the entire scene. I don't know. Do I want to bring this foreground tree in? And I get a bit more of the trail. Yeah, I don't know. If I can just... So 10-second timer. And think I'll just push these small trees here out of the way. I just cleaned up the composition. Well, at least a little bit. That said, I think I just prefer the clean shot. There we go. Zoom in. Get a bit of the trail there.
I usually do not put myself in foggy forest photos like these because the result can become a bit spooky, like who's that mysterious person hiding in the fog. But for this specific photo that is relatively bright, I find it to be so obvious to have myself right there in the middle, framed by the trees.
I have had my eyes on this composition for years and I really like it. I do think I would have preferred it with leaves on the trees and then equally as foggy conditions, but it is the time of year as it is. But when we talk about how a camera is just a tool, hopefully it can also help you from not having it as a trophy and just think of it as your hammer that you go out and do some kind of job with. And since it doesn't require a whole lot to do that job, then hopefully you can also avoid the worst gear acquisition syndrome. And just remember that you actually don't need the most expensive gear to take the best photos. You just need to go out and train, and keep getting out and putting yourself in optimal conditions so that you have a bigger chance of capturing something interesting. And don't get me wrong, like I, as much as the next photographer, enjoys getting new gear, getting new cameras, getting new lenses. But just on a morning like this, generally, besides my 14mm that I put back on right here, I basically only used my 25 to 200mm and mainly my 16 to 35 f4 from Sony, the PZ lens. And they are, relatively speaking, cheap lenses. And we don't mention anything about how expensive the camera is. So I've been working on this scene right here for a little while and found different compositions. I really like all those branches and the pattern that they create. It's a little bit hard and I'm a little bit skeptical whether it works. The fog is thick enough to create the separation between the trees, but it is just like a big white background, and I tend to not really like that much. But I do think the patterns makes up for it. So I'm just using the 25 to 200 millimeter and zooming in at different focal lengths, filling the frame with this pattern, sometimes including the ground, sometimes not including the ground. But in all their abstractness, they actually look really cool.
I really like the intertwined branches in these photos and how the fog does create that sense of depth and feeling of something mysterious. Which one of these 3 tree photos is your favorite?
So what an absolutely gorgeous morning. If you want to learn how I edit my photos, also specifically about how I edit moody, foggy, atmospheric woodlands like this, be sure to enroll in my big post-processing course, Photoshop for Landscape Photographers. Here I have 10 or 11 start to finish tutorials. I really ought to know that. But nevertheless, there is one about atmospheric forest photography editing. In my tools section, I also have a 45-minute video. I think it's 45 minutes. I really ought to know this about how to deal with atmosphere and glow in your post-processing. If you're used to using Lightroom, you can jump straight in, even though I use Camera Raw. Lightroom is built on Camera Raw, so the editing algorithms are exactly the same. On the page for the course, I have a Q&A section, and if you have more questions, you are more than welcome to always send me an email. There are links to my course, my ebooks, my gear, everything down in the description of this video and all my other videos.
The morning didn't stop here though. As I mentioned, it was indeed one of those mornings where I could have put together 3 videos, but instead I decided to spend the rest of the morning just focusing on photography and occasional film a bit of B-roll. And you know what? It was actually such a relief just trying out and visiting locations I've had my eyes on for years. Considering how much ground I covered, I actually only came away with a handful of photos I actually liked, and it goes to show that even though you have perfect foggy weather, the scenes you photograph still need to have the right elements and not be too cluttered. That's also why I generally prefer to photograph foggy forests during summer and autumn. Here I for the most often find that the leaves on the trees help declutter the scenes. But I also find that getting those thick foggy conditions are rarer, and even if it's foggy, it's not always the fog gets down between the trees. I hope you enjoyed this video, and check out the links for my ebooks and editing course down below, and
see you next time.